Mike, did you steal Rob Lowe's hat? Oh my bad.
Is that how we're starting the show? Just shots at Mike that we're supposed to be off air. Welcome into MJT Football. Mike, Joe, Tony here talking football. I mean, it's in the title. We appreciate you. We don't know how you got here, stopping and talking ball with us. We had some preseason games last night. We're going to foreshadow what we're hoping to see from teams, players in the preseason. We're talking the CD Lamb stuff. I already lost my notes, but yeah, we're talking Nick Foles retirement. Ooh, look at that flashy little Herbie card there. Yes, and TJ Watt and Alex Leatherwood. This show runs deep on all.
There's a lot of money.
NFL memorabilia. I got on a Mike Williams practice jersey from a couple years ago. We're feeling good. If you're so inclined, throw some comments, questions, thoughts, concerns, whatever into the chat. We love to talk about that stuff. Mike, how we doing? How we living on this beautiful Friday?
Doing amazing, man. Trying to get as much freaking content on all the NFL stuff out as possible. It's been chaotic, but in a good way because football is back. It's back.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Joe, how you doing?
Doing great. First Raider game tomorrow, but for preseason. But I don't get to watch it live. I actually have to go back and watch it. But
why? Why not? You got work? You got
my kids have a play.
Yeah, there it is. To be or not to be. Joe will not be in front of his TV.
They're doing Mean Girls, Tony.
Oh, that's so fetch, bro. We're not going to do movie references because Mike will not get them, and then we have to argue about how Mike's out of touch with everything except for the NFL, but that's why he's NFL Mike and not everything Mike. He's just NFL Mike. He's singularly focused on football. He's
the second y'all said play, I'm already out.
You're sort of like of the fans, you're like very Harbaugh-esque. It's like football, family, and faith. Like these are the only three things Mike's interested in right there.
Mm-hmm.
And he got Mike. Is that the real American flag that Aaron Rodgers carried out last year? Is that the one?
Yeah, he gave it to me. He sent it to my house after he tore his Achilles. He said, "You got to get that flag to Mike now. Cause that's gonna be a historic flag."
You gotta make up a story about how you won that in an auction. You outbid somebody, a Jets fan, and it cost you $38,000. On an auction.
I'm glad that you guys are patriotic and supporting the flag, though, in the background. My wife told me that it makes my shot look like a classroom. And I'm like, well, if the classroom's got an American flag in there, then I'm all for it. Put me in that fucking classroom. Jesus,
Rose,
even my own wife is like, you're putting a flag in your room? What is wrong with you?
Rose, I do see what she's saying, though. The way that it is displayed, it does look like looks like you're sitting at a teacher's desk, class in session. Mike is about to school everybody on the NFL.
So we should start each show with the Pledge of Allegiance, right?
Yeah.
And just go from there.
I should play on this, actually. I should do the Pledge of Allegiance back there real quick. You guys want to take a little break?
No.
As long as we keep this shit respectful.
Never mind.
Yeah,
I will do that later on because it would be a good transition, but I know you guys don't want to start the show with it. But speaking about Pledge of Allegiance and singing songs and stuff, Hard Knocks.
I don't know where you're going to that. Let's put a pin in it and let's ruin the show at the end. Everybody stick around for Joe to say something super insensitive, possibly borderlining.
I was talking about Hard Knocks.
Well, yeah, Hard Knocks is a topic here.
The lineman, the Eagle. What's his name? Eagle. They call him Eagle now because he was singing the "God Bless the United States." And
I remember that one. Yeah,
I thought they call him Eagle because he went spread eagle, dude. That injury.
It was an eagle. It was an eagle on his little Speedo. That's what it was.
Oh,
like the head was the eagle, the beak.
Did you see the spread eagle, though, that had the injury he suffered in the preseason game?
Tony's getting called out right now. Pledge of Allegiance, Tony. They want you to do it.
Yeah, Kyle wants to see it.
Yeah, my thing is I don't mind doing it. I just want to make sure that we're doing things like this respectfully. Like we're not gonna turn the Pledge of Allegiance into like mockery or a bit or anything like that. Like I'm just not gonna be a part of that on a show that I'm hosting. So that's all I'm saying is like I don't know that we're gonna take it.
We do it like we're all gonna stand up together here.
Exactly.
We are gonna salute this fucking flag.
Exactly, and I'm gonna treat it very seriously. I don't want any jokes or dumb shit being done in there. So that's why I'm saying we're not doing it.
Because you're gonna say it like oh, never mind. We can't do movie references on here because Mike.
The injury that guy suffered in the thing, we were talking about how before Julian Edelman said that field was absolute shit. If you look at it, he just plants and there's just like the turf or the grass or whatever doesn't grab anything. His foot just slides forever until he ends up in the splits. It's like, I get that we want to have a Hall of Fame game, but we can't be putting NFL players, even if they are practice squad guys fighting for a shot. We can't be having them play on a field where it's garbage.
Yeah. I was trying to re-look at that field because I watched it late last night and I was like, and I know what you're talking about, Tony, because he almost did the splits and all he did was take a step to the left and his whole leg just went boom.
Yeah, and he just went nuts.
How much money goes into this every week, every game, every broadcast? They can't make sure the field is safe? Come on.
Yeah, that's why you don't put guys like Khalil Herbert out there in that game. I wanted to talk about, so Harrison right here was saying last night was horrible. I will say for the Patriots, I think that it may not mean a ton, but Kayshon Boutte making plays, that's a confidence builder. Maybe it wasn't against top-notch talent, but like that's a sign, a step in the right direction that he had a good thing. Joe, however, wanted to talk about after last night's performance, JuJu Smith-Schuster getting cut by the Patriots. Joe, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying there's a lot of disrespect out there of being thrown at JuJu on Twitter and stuff right now. Look, it was a bad idea when JuJu signed with the Patriots. Like, nobody thought that was ever going to work out when he first signed with it. JuJu is not that kind of player to not have fun in the locker room, not be himself. JuJu has to dance. He has to do his thing. He has to talk shit. And you put him in the Patriots. Like, we looked at that when he first signed that deal, and we're like, this isn't going to work out. So I think a lot of people forget that JuJu is actually a pretty good player. I'm not saying he's the number one wide receiver on a team, but if you find an established team with a number one wide receiver already, or he can come in, be the number 2, number 3 wide receiver, I think JuJu can re-up his career and get it going again. He's not, like I said, he's not your number one guy, and I think that's what New England thought he could be, and that he's not. But JuJu Smith, come back, be happy again, start finding love, find the love of a game again because you lost it in New England, and be the JuJu that we all know, and I think he'll bounce right back.
This is Joe's segue into wanting him to be a Raider because I know how Joe feels about the depth of the wide receiver core, and he actually would make a good for what they want to do, right? Because he's going to block. He's a big wide receiver, and he's going to play over the middle of the field. He'd play nicely for some easy targets. So I know Joe.
Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, and then you have JuJu. No? Like,
wow.
The Raiders thought they brought in Michael Gallup to do this. Michael Gallup retired right before training camp, threw him in a loop. I wouldn't mind him being a third wide receiver on the team. You're not going to pay him a lot because the Patriots are already paying him.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with JuJu is just all of the freaking knee injuries. He's had some pretty catastrophic ones, and there's almost like a immediate decline if you go and look at the history and where he suffered those first major knee injuries, and then going into the last offseason, he dealt with it too. It just hasn't been the same since that, and we don't see it as much in the NFL anymore because of modern medicine and how good it's gotten. But these guys can get seriously damaged by these knee injuries for careers. And JuJu's kind of turned into like a really, like Joe's saying, a really good teammate, still a really good blocker. He'll catch a pass when he's wide open and he's schemed open. But he doesn't have that burst or that ability that we saw him break out with the Steelers anymore. It's just gone.
Well, the interesting thing is like these guys come back from these injuries and they are still elite level athletes. Yeah. But the margin, the small fraction that they lose in that injury is enough to make them look like an average football player compared to what they were prior to the injury. But still, they would smoke any
Of course, yeah.
regular person in anything, even though they can't quite capture what they were previously and prior to that injury. Goodness gracious, I can't speak.
Harrison,
I think
like
JuJu.
I like JuJu to Atlanta. That would be a good one. I would think that would be good. It's like I said, it would have to be a team that already has a good number one wide receiver or somebody like already there. I would say Indianapolis would be a great spot for him. Like they're not somewhere that there's not going to be high expectations for him, where he comes in as like a third guy, where they're letting the 1 and 2s go, and he comes in and just has to be a possession guy or something.
That's pretty much anywhere. That's pretty much anywhere. I mean, any team could use a guy like JuJu.
It's not Los Angeles because they don't have a number one guy.
Oh, you need to watch what you're talking about, because week 1 is rapidly approaching, my friend.
I don't think JuJu would make the Chargers roster right now either.
What about JuJu to the Rams?
The Rams make sense because he's kind of like, that's the style wide receiver they like. It doesn't need to be some crazy speedster down the field threat.
No,
and a coach like McVay would use him.
I just don't know what JuJu adds. Like maybe you'd be putting JuJu in there as a depth piece in case you lose Puka or you lose Cooper Kupp as your like underneath threat. Like I'm saying, like JuJu doesn't have it anymore, man. He's not gonna come in and contribute at a high level, at a high clip, at a high volume for an entire season. He's gonna just be a fill-in wide receiver, a rotation guy.
Hang on.
You are the same dude that sucked off OBJ for the last 3 years, saying that he's an elite wide receiver, and then now
when have I ever said that OBJ is currently an elite wide receiver?
Last year.
That's just a lie. You're just lying now.
When he signed with the Ravens, you were like, "Oh my god!"
I was like, "Yeah, it's a great signing. He's probably gonna have 600-700 yards." That's exactly what I said. I even said out loud, like multiple times, like I think Zay Flowers is better for fantasy football. I even like Rashad Bateman better for fantasy football. I'm taking Isaiah Likely more than I'm taking OBJ in fantasy football drafts. You're just making shit up now, Joe, just because I'm a fan of what OBJ did in his prime as I was also a teenager falling in love with football. I'm sorry. And also, I think he's overhated, so I defend him a little bit harder because you guys act like he made one catch and wasn't just this freaking maybe
you know what, Mike? Keep talking because I have the clip. I have the clip of you saying it right here.
As unstoppable as a Tyreek Hill, as unstoppable as anyone you could name in the history of football at his prime. I never, ever have said that Odell has been elite anytime after 2020.
Yeah, we got Kyle in here telling Joe to be better, and Joe's over here dialing up his rebuttal. You guys, I think we're leaving out one important point about the way that rosters are built, and I think even there might be a little tweaks of rosters because of the new kickoff rule. But I think that when you are a wide receiver like JuJu and you're going to be on the roster, you have to also be able to and willing to commit on special teams. And JuJu's, I don't know that he's going to be a special teams player. Like, it's kind of, if you look at the roster, like look at a guy like Allen Robinson for the Steelers. Allen Robinson, is he going to make the Steelers roster this year? Like, whether they get Ayuk or not, because he's kind of in that spot where he might have to be playing special teams this year. And Allen Robinson isn't a special teams guy. I don't know that JuJu is going to be a special teams guy. Like, that's kind of where they're at. It's like, you're going to have to contribute. That's why Cordell Patterson was such a good player. Go ahead, Mike. I know you need to say something right now.
No, I see Renee in here with the Joe Milton thing, and I'm just like, this whole entire Joe Milton offseason storyline it rattles my brain. Because you'd think that Patriots fans would not want Joe Milton to make Drake Maye look bad. You want him to do well. You don't want Joe Milton to do bad, but the Jacoby Brissett out there at the offense, all of the starters for the offense for the Patriots didn't look super impressive against a preseason Panthers defense. Joe Milton gets in there and makes some exciting plays. Patriots win 17-0, and everyone's talking about Joe Milton on Twitter today. And I'm just like, man, we are setting up for some real drama. Probably not this year, but if Drake Maye isn't good and good quickly, Patriots fans are going to be calling for Joe Milton to get into the game, Brock Purdy style.
Yeah, I don't. We talked about it a little bit last week, right? That Drake Maye was getting a lot of heat on Twitter and stuff. But I don't know. I think just because Joe Milton has a strong arm doesn't make him the better quarterback. Come on.
So I stopped watching pretty early in that game. Like Drake Maye gets one series, and then I watched Bailey Zappi, and then I pretty much just checked out and probably flipped back to the Olympics or whatever. Joe Milton is interesting. He is worth a project on the roster. But if you have invested this amount of money in Drake Maye, can we give him more than the preseason before we start calling for the 7th round quarterback? Right. Like, as a Patriots fan, aren't you hoping that Drake Maye is worth the 3rd overall pick? And it seems like Patriots fans are like, no, the only way we can succeed is the blueprint of turning a late round quarterback into the real deal. Like, if we're going to try and recapture the Brady magic.
Who's the most popular player on a football team, Tony?
The backup QB.
Backup QB.
Not on the Chargers. Not on the Chargers. And that's
I love Easton Stick. Every time I don't want Easton Stick on my team, but I love watching Easton Stick play.
Oh my gosh. That's
like
hilarious.
People forget, he threw a touchdown to Jack Jones last year. He did really good.
Hey, every player on the 53-man roster is somebody's favorite person, even if it's only their family and their relatives.
True. Exactly.
So, Mike, you know what Patriot fans are good for right now?
What?
Patriot fans are good for telling Chiefs fans, like, hey, it doesn't last forever. Like, soak it in right now because there's going to be a downfall to the Chiefs, and you won't like the aftermath.
Well, I was gonna do a whole video for the Chiefs and maybe even include this in my record predictions for the Chiefs. Basically, just talk about like before this day, the day they drafted Patrick Mahomes, and it's just like an abyss of losing.
There's going to be a day where like Chiefs fans, they're going to have to be like a meeting for Chiefs fans and Patriots fans to just show up and sit there and drink their coffee, eat their donuts, and talk about the good old days. Remember when we had a dynasty? It was so good.
You can sit right next to the Niners and the Cowboys fans.
The change really started, though, with Andy Reid and Alex Smith.
Like, yeah, Andy Reid was good for the Chiefs.
True.
Yeah, they were playing good football before Patrick Mahomes got there.
Hey, speaking about Alex Smith, have you guys seen his leg lately?
It looks the same.
Only in the pictures. It looks.
They showed it, and it was like 4 years later or whatever, and it was still nasty.
Can you believe that he played on that leg? Like, he played after the injury. He played on that alien-looking thing.
It's still like one of those things that I remember sweating watching him play in the NFL, and I was like, oh, this thing's going to snap like a matchstick. This is going to be terrible. We were watching a game live when we used to still do like Warzone stuff. We'd watch the live games, and there's a part where Joe's like, Tony, look at the screen. I'm like, I can't look at the screen. What happened?
Because they played the Rams, right? And wasn't Aaron Donald like on
Aaron
top
Donald? And he's like, look at the screen. I'm like, I can't look, Joe. I can't look at the screen. What if he gets up and it's just like dangling sideways?
That was the most watched Washington game in years because people were watching to see if his leg would snap again. Like that was
a car accident. You can't look at
like Tony was right. Every hit that he took in that game, everybody was like, oh, is he gonna get up? Is he gonna get up? And he did. Kyle, the AA meetings for past dynasties, like we can make fun of it.
That's a good skit idea.
I wish I had a seat at that table. Like I make fun of it and we talk shit about it, but I wish my team would have a seat at that table.
Get some old Steelers fans in there and shit, like where you can barely understand because their accents are so thick. That would be
just so old. I ran into a Steelers fan like that at Walmart the other day, Tony. I just started chatting with him because he was wearing all Steelers gear. He was telling me about all these old Steelers stories. And I actually like watched a lot of those old Super Bowls, so I knew what he was talking about. But this guy was salty. This guy was crusty.
And I think that's the thing when you talk about like people saying like, oh, this is our expectation level isn't just to be over 500. It isn't just to make the playoffs every year. It's because that generation that might not be as vocal on like TikTok and Instagram and like that, but those people are still on MySpace and Facebook, and they're still very loud about Mel Blount, Lynn Swann, Mean Joe Green, that whole, the Jacks at linebacker. Like They know the history. They know even into Cower where it was like they were winning playoff games with Cordell Stewart, Bubby Brister, Neil
There's only
O'Donnell.
one team that is happy and all they want to do is make the playoffs and lose in the first round, and that's the Dallas Cowboys, right? That's the only team that's ever happy with it.
Okay, that is a great transition, Joe, because let's talk about Jerry Jones. He's up there and he's asked the question and he says, I have no urgency to get the CD Lamb deal done. And then CD just responds to a reporter putting it out on Twitter with just the LOL. Because I feel like Jerry's at the point where he's just like, he doesn't want people to see him as old as he is. Like he doesn't talk about urgency, but it's like, Jerry, we're playing Twilight Golf right now, and we're on like hole 15, and the sun's going down. Like we're really up against the clock here for you to be putting out something that you're definitely going to be able to enjoy a potential Super Bowl return, Super Bowl victory. Like it's getting really late on that. When like if you're CD Lamb at a certain point, do you just put it out there like you're demanding a trade? Like, do you start like pushing? Mike, go ahead. Talk about that for a second.
I mean, I don't understand what the hell the Cowboys are thinking as an organization. We can just throw Jerry Jones' senile ass aside. Let's just talk about them as a team in that meeting together. I know he's maybe still running this thing like a dictator, but are people just like kissing his ass and yes man in this dude? Well, what is going on? Because it just makes no sense to me. Of Micah, Dak, CD, it should be so obvious to the team that they have to get this CD Lamb deal done. And Jerry, the price. There you go. The price is just going up. It's like every day the price goes up just a little bit. Like CD Lamb doesn't give two shits about any kind of fines or anything of how much money he's going to make. Go ahead, Joe.
This is why I sent Fernando the link right now. Fernando was standing in front of Jerry Jones yesterday at practice when this question was asked him. Fernando recorded this very interaction that we're talking about. Fernando was there. And I don't know, maybe he'll get mad that I said this, but he said he couldn't stop laughing when he heard Jerry Jones's reaction. Like, at what point do you just be like, Jerry, like, you fucking lost it, dude.
You have a receiver that I think many teams would pay $35 million a year to. And
that's what I was about to say.
He's LOLing on the internet.
I think any team that doesn't have Justin Jefferson or Tyreek Hill or just aren't absolutely set at wide receiver will be interested the second CeeDee Lamb becomes available via free agency or a trade. They will pay first-round picks. They will pay second-round picks. They will pay $30 million. They will blow him. They'll do whatever the hell he wants because that's how good of a receiver he is. You're not going to find a guy this level in the draft. And for the Cowboys, it's like if they lose CeeDee Lamb, you're setting the franchise back possibly years to try and build a passing offense that's going to be equivalent. It's been one of the best the last couple of seasons.
Yeah. And Fernando goes and he watches Quentin Johnston. He watches DJ Chark every day. Imagine a guy like watching CeeDee Lamb every day and going, we're not going to pay that guy when there's other wide receivers that aren't up to his level. Damn. Did I just take another shot at I don't mean to do this. I'm sorry, guys. Like sometimes it just happens.
I don't know.
They're not the receivers you just named are not in the class of CeeDee Lamb, so I don't know why we're going in that direction at all. We're like if you're the Cowboys and you're in this situation where it's like, okay, we have the resources, and they clearly do because Jerry's worth so much money, whether it's like the net worth of the organization, real estate investments, whatever it is. Like Jerry can spend money, and yet for some reason he's not. The only thing that I can think of here is that Jerry wants to have this great big homecoming at some point where he's like, look what I did. I just made Dak the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. I just made CD the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. But when you think about it, it's like, yes, it's a splashy headline right there. But at the same time, it's bad business for you. Like, why are you constantly trying to say, like, everything's bigger and better in Texas, including our mistakes and the salaries we're paying these people? Like, it's insane that you weren't getting these deals done sooner. Why are you waiting so long?
I just don't get why you play with fire. He's literally just playing with fire, Tony. He's playing with fire. These guys are going to start talking to each other. Like, for example, Hollywood Brown and CeeDee Lamb, it's just cryptic stuff, and this might just be some little thing that CeeDee's doing to send a message to the Cowboys, have set the same profile pictures on Twitter of each other together. No one wants to see anything like that even come close to happening, but just like giving CeeDee Lamb those thoughts in his head, like, oh, maybe I will talk to a couple of the other quarterbacks I'm friends with around the league. Maybe I will talk to some of my old college teammates, and we could match our profile pictures to fuck with the Cowboys. But who knows what's going to happen here? And I keep saying the same thing for Micah, because Micah is not a Cowboy. He's not rocking a legacy number for the Cowboys right now like CeeDee is.
You guys are forgetting it, Mike. You guys are forgetting what we talked about, what Jerry had told you. It's the option play. He hasn't pitched it yet. Just give him a second.
So stupid, bro.
He's getting closer and closer to the sideline, and he's about to make that pitch. But Jerry's really good at running that option.
I feel like Jerry passed the line of scrimmage and he's forward laddering the ball. Like Jerry, there's a flag. There's a flag. Reset and call a new play. Call a fucking deep shot.
No, Jerry's in a dream. He's dreaming that he's an option quarterback. That's the problem. He doesn't realize it.
Get out of here.
How come nobody else, how come his son hasn't stepped up and been like, hey, Dad, shut the fuck up. Let me do this. Let me make the deal with CeeDee Lamb before we lose him. Because Parsons retweeted that post last night too, right? The LOL tweet from CeeDee Lamb. So this isn't the old school NFL. Like, we're seeing more players hold out, more players ask for money. Brandon Ayuk basically is on a winning team that's gone to the Super Bowl. He's getting offered money, but it looks like he's willing to take the same deal to go somewhere else just to prove the point. Like, these players don't care anymore. Like, sometimes it's about the money, sometimes it's not. It's about being respected. And if you're not going to show the respect, they don't want to be a part of your organization. Because at one point, is CeeDee Lamb going to go, you know what? I wanted to come back at $32 million, not even be the highest paid player, but now you're just straight disrespecting me every time you get a chance. I'm going somewhere else. See you later.
Well, the urgency
there is no
the
reason
urgency will be there in week one. When he sees this team, when he sees the team without CeeDee Lamb, urgency will then be kicked up a notch if he has to watch this team and the offense play. At least I believe that, because the running game situation, it's like they're in a situation like what we talked about with JuJu. If you are not the starter at your position, you're probably going to have to factor into special teams. Is Zeke a special teams player? If he's not he's either RB1 or he's playing on special teams somewhere. And I don't know if we're sending Zeke out there to make tackles at 28 years old as a running back. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. He's not Cordell Patterson, where it's like, yeah, you can carry the ball 5 times, you can return the ball, and you can go out there and make tackles. Like, that's where you're at when you get later in your career.
Yeah, it just seems like they're not prioritizing anything this offseason. They're prioritizing nothing, and that's going to lead to an absolute collapse potentially.
They're all in, Mike. They're all in.
It seems stupid, especially when you just pay attention to what's happened the last couple of years in the league. Tyreek Hill getting traded, Devontae Adams getting traded, Justin Jefferson being teased to be traded. Like, we're seeing receivers get traded every offseason at this point. It can happen so easily. And it can get to a point where CD, like you're saying, Joe, just goes, you know what? Even if you guys do pay me, now I don't even want to be here anymore. I talked to my buddy in X and X city. I'm going to get the same amount of money, and I get to play with my best friend.
Yeah, we act like tampering doesn't happen in the NFL. CeeDee Lamb's agent knows what he can get from other teams. Like, he has a list of it going, hey, if you trade us here, we got this. Like, if the Patriots were willing to give up a lot for Brandon Ayuk, you don't think they're willing to do the same deal for CeeDee Lamb?
Oh, definitely. Anyone who's interested in Ayuk is going to be interested in CD, because he just brings that next level of wide receiver to your team that we haven't seen Brandon Ayuk kind of like fully show yet. I definitely think CeeDee Lamb's mark will be higher. Maybe the Cowboys are fooling all of us, guys. Maybe this is all part of their plan, and they realize, like, hey, we're going to have to let go of the franchise quarterback. We're going to have to rebuild a little bit. Let's get a lot of picks for Micah and CD. Let's franchise tag Dak, and let's trade him and get some picks as well. Like, maybe they're playing the long game here, and they're just going to trade all these guys once their contracts are running out.
Okay, even with CeeDee Lamb on the Dallas Cowboys, do you see them as Super Bowl contenders? this
To
year.
me, without CeeDee Lamb,
No.
I think that this is a freaking 7-win team or a 6-win team. That's how big of a player and big a difference that he makes for the offense.
If the Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb this year and they're in the NFC, you're not telling me that they're one of the 4 best teams in the NFC?
I didn't say best teams in the NFC because anybody could be a best team in the NFC. That's how shitty that conference is. But I'm saying a Super Bowl contender, like legit, like would you put him as one of your top 4s to be like, yeah, I could, if I was going to bet, I'd say the Cowboys would win the Super Bowl.
Top 4?
Like,
I would go. No, I don't think so.
Dude, all you got to do is get there. We're about to talk about Nick Foles retiring. None of us had a Nick Foles-led team beating the Patriots in the Super Bowl. You
Because
just have
you
to
forgot. You forgot that we didn't know that it was Big Dick Nick at that time. We didn't know that.
But in that same breath, if we just go off of the basis that anything can happen, then anything can happen. Literally, Tommy DeVito could lead the Giants to the freaking Super Bowl this year.
Absolutely not. That is
I'm not putting them. I'm not putting them in the top. I mean, it's pretty equivalent to Nick Foles going on a run to the Super Bowl. Think about it. Like I think in their own division,
Chargers team somewhere.
In their own division, I like the Eagles a lot more right now, even with CD.
You gotta like what Washington's doing. Like the Cowboys,
I like Washington's building. Yeah, they're right there too.
The NFC East isn't going to be a pushover like it has been in the last couple of years for the Cowboys.
I think that's true. I think the Giants got better too. Like the defensive line, like if Thibodeau takes a step up, now all of a sudden you've got 3 problems on the defensive line, which can help strengthen the secondary. And if they're not as blitz crazy as they were under Wink Martindale, maybe that adds an element to it. I do think the Giants can be better. I think Washington can be better under the right kind of leadership, direction, excitement, the players. But you still look at the Cowboys and say, like, hey, there's a lot of talent here. Like they're still gonna win 10 games with CD. They're still gonna be in the playoffs and can catch fire.
I don't think I count any wild card 10-win team as a Super Bowl contender in my book going into the. Because then we're saying that every team that makes the playoffs is a Super Bowl contender. It's basically what we're saying. If a 10-win team is a Super Bowl contender.
In the NFC, I believe that if you get in there at 10 wins, the way that it's shaping up, like could the defense get super hot and take them to a Super Bowl? And that is why I have them as a contender because of them playing in the NFC. Like
you're gonna have a lot of contenders with that. With that qualifier,
yeah. Tony had like
they have a good defense that can get hot. Yes, okay. So
13 wins in the NFC.
So are the Packers Super Bowl contenders?
No.
Okay. And the Lions are Super Bowl contenders?
Yes.
Okay. The 49ers?
Yes.
Okay. And the Eagles?
The Eagles, the 49ers, the Lions are probably my NFC Super Bowl contenders.
Okay. And so who would be number 4?
Are we talking about NFC or are we talking about everybody?
I'm saying if we're ranking the NFC teams that have a shot at the Super Bowl, would be number 4.
I think that I'll probably put either the Packers or the Rams.
Okay, good. I'm glad. I want to get all this stuff on record.
Well, I think that the Cowboys will be there like in the wild card again. I have the worry that it's all going to come collapsing down, but if they get these contracts done, the team's still going to be good, Tony. I see what you're saying, but they haven't been a Super Bowl contender. Like last year, I didn't look at them as Super Bowl contenders entering the playoffs.
Oh, I think we could definitely find video of that being a different story from you. Like we could definitely
find them to lose in round 1. I picked them to lose in round 1.
Ooh.
The Cowboys.
Mike's saying that he picked the Cowboys to lose to the Packers in round 1. Classic Cowboys fan up until last year at about halftime.
And then I definitely picked them to beat the Niners the year that Dak slid, but I was like not confident at all in them.
Mike.
These are all recorded. Same thing as the OBJ conversation. We don't have to. I know I smoked a lot of weed, but I still have better memories than both of you.
I'll admit it myself. We both went to Cowboy camp last year, and we both got excited about the Cowboys and thought they were going to be both a good team. And we both had the Cowboys going to the Super Bowl last year.
With an all-pro left tackle, a Pro Bowl center, CeeDee Lamb without any disputes, Micah Parsons without any disputes, Trayvon Diggs fully healthy, Dak Prescott not in a contract dispute. A lot higher opinions on guys like Brendan Cooks.
The Capitan is in the house. Say happy birthday to him. Happy birthday.
I'm confused on who's happy birthday, Captain. But I'm confused on whose side of this argument you're on, Joe, because you started on my side and you switched midway through the debate. What the fuck?
Here's the one thing about me, Mike, is I don't pick sides. I just like to piss people off.
So are the Cowboys Super Bowl contenders or not? Are they Super Bowl contenders, Joe?
No.
So you agree with me? How am I arguing both of you when Joe's on my side?
It's entertainment factor, Mike. It's an entertainment. I do it for the people.
Take another sip of Celsius, Joe. Tony, get us back on course. Get us back on track.
Yes, I'm having some technical difficulties over here. I think that my computer finally caught up. Let's talk. We're talking about Super Bowl contenders, Cowboys. Let's talk about an Eagles legend. Nick Foles retires. And immediately, like, this question came to my head. Would you rather have, because we've done this before, would you rather have Nick Foles' career or Kirk Cousins? They're both quarterbacks drafted in the 2012 quarterback class, which actually turned out to be pretty good. When I was scrolling through, it was like Andrew Luck and RG3 and Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, Nick Foles. I just named 2 Super Bowl winners. Andrew Luck, I believe, or RG3 was Rookie of the Year. Good class. But would you rather have Nick Foles' career or Kirk Cousins' career? I'm going to start with Joe on this one.
I think we've talked about this in the past. I'd rather have Nick Foles. I love Kirk Cousins' money, but I'd rather have Nick Foles' career because at the end of the day, when you're playing the game, you want to walk around with that ring on, and you want to, no matter what. I mean, you want that ring. So, and we've talked about it. Like Mike gets mad at us, but the ring does matter.
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, we talked about this before, and I'm going to go ahead and start preferencing because you guys are going to jump down my throat the second that I answer. I'm going to start preferencing with the facts that the discussion we had before was, would you rather be like a top 5 quarterback all time and win 1 ring or be outside the top 75 and win 2 rings on wild card team? We were comparing Eli Manning and Aaron Rodgers' careers if you guys weren't there. And I was taking Aaron Rodgers and they were taking Eli Manning. Now, in this case, we're talking about 0 rings and a shit ton of money or 1 ring and a lot of money.
Yeah.
So in this situation, I'll take Nick Foles.
Finally, Mike got one right here. The answer is
I'll take Nick Foles. I'll take Nick Foles. But the difference here is that if Nick Foles doesn't get that contract after winning the Super Bowl, that makes it tougher because we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars for 1 Super Bowl ring. I don't care how much you guys love football. I probably love football as much as anyone that's ever existed on planet Earth. I'm taking $500 million over 1 Super Bowl ring.
So here's the thing. Even without that contract that he got in Jacksonville, because I looked it up and it said a career total earnings is roughly $87 million. But even without that contract, signing that contract in Jacksonville, he probably still makes about $35 million, $40 million. And I don't think you can put a price on beating Bill Belichick's defense, having a Super Bowl record passing yards in the game and outdueling Tom Brady in one of the most electrifying Super Bowls we've ever seen. You can't put a price on that. So regardless of the amount of money that he made, you're telling me I get to be, and here's the cherry on top. He gets to be a legend in a sports town like Philadelphia. I don't really like Philadelphia fans. Like, I think that they just they don't even argue with you. They just call you like gratuitous names and then move on. Like, they have no argument. It's just like, you're not an Eagles fan. You're not a Sixers fan. Fuck you. Get out of here. Like, you don't even argue with them. They just curse at you and walk away. So like, when you have that kind of loyalty getting your back, 100% Nick Foles is the answer. And because Kyle's saying here, give me the respect of my peers over a ring. No, you can have the respect of your peers, but then that shit fades after about 10 years and the next generation takes over. People are not going to forget about what Nick Foles did in that Super Bowl.
And I also think when you talk about respect to your peers, like Nick Foles also had a decade-long career. So he has his respect of his peers. Like, he didn't need to earn no one's respect. I know Kirk Cousins is a starter in this league and he has that he's been a better quarterback for a longer period of time than Nick Foles. But when we talk about respect levels, players to peers, I should say, I feel like the respect levels are very similar. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm taking Nick Foles because of the 85 million. But Tony, the real question is, you're saying is that if you had a choice, right? They just put it on the table, option A, option B, $500 million, or beat Bill Belichick one time and be famous for it, and you're gonna turn the $500 million down?
Yeah.
Do I still get to make some of the money that like let's put a number on it. I only make $5 million in my career, but I get to have the most famous, the Philly special is like one of the most famous plays in Super Bowl history. And I get to beat Tom Brady and Bill Belichick and I get $5 million. I'll take that over $500 million.
I'm taking $500 million every single time. You could take both my legs for $500 million.
Tom Brady is the greatest.
You want my dick?
Tom
you got my dick too.
Tom Brady's going to go. Is the greatest quarterback to ever play the game. Right? Won all the Super Bowls, everything he has. When Tom Brady sits there at night and remembers his career, he thinks about two motherfuckers: Nick Foles and Eli Manning.
I bet he don't. I bet he sleeps like a fucking baby.
When he's getting into bed with some supermodel, he's going, "Damn you, Nick Foles!" That's what he does.
Multiple supermodels, probably. Multiple supermodels.
And then he sits there. He can't even have sex. He has to sit there and cry with.
Yeah, he's so worried about it. He'll never ever be able to rest again.
Yeah, he just he'll stay up all night with the supermodels and just like, I can't believe those two beat me in the Super Bowl. And they're like, it's okay, Tom. It's okay.
I wish that we could somehow get like Nick Foles hooked up to a polygraph and ask him what he thinks. Like, would you rather have an extra 500 mil on top of your 100 mil, even with the perspective that he already has 100 mil, or would you rather have that one ring? Like, I'm offering you 500 mil for that ring. He's gonna sell that shit immediately.
That's actually a good Sleep Number commercial where if like Tom Brady was like, for years, I had trouble sleeping. I couldn't get over losing to Eli Manning twice and Nick Foles, but then I got a Sleep Number bed and now I sleep all night because that's the new campaign is they play that all night long song. Sleep Number. That's a good commercial. Tom Brady. All night long, all night.
Kyle,
Sleep Number.
We can't bring this up, Kyle, because
get your Sleep Number bed today.
Yep.
We'll never get out of this topic. We start comparing Marino.
Yeah, we're not gonna travel down this road, Kyle.
These guys would take like the backup third string quarterback of the Super Bowl I Packers over Dan Marino.
But I'm saying that's a good conversation. That is a good conversation. Dan Marino never won, right? People nowadays, like if you're not a hardcore fan, you're not bringing up Marino. It's going to be the same thing 20 years from now. People aren't going to bring up Kirk Cousins' name. They're going to bring up Nick Foles, but that's it.
Do you really think that people are going to bring up Nick Foles more than Dan Marino?
Here's the thing. Yeah. I think that it's absolutely, this one's not close for me at all. That's why we're not going to argue it because Eli Manning comes from NFL royalty and he's also a legend in New York. I think a better comparison here that would be tougher, and I'd probably pick Marino, would be like Trent Dilfer or Brad Johnson. Like that level of winning quarterback where it's like they won Super Bowls on teams that were like crazy defenses. And then I would probably pick to have Dan Marino's career in those situations as opposed to Nick Foles versus Marino. I just can't get over that Super Bowl. Like if you told me I had to sit down and watch a Super Bowl over again, I think it's in my top 3, like of the picks. I also really enjoy that Jake Plummer, Tom Brady Super Bowl, the Panthers, Patriots. That second title they got was so much fun.
You said Jake Plummer,
especially the fourth quarter. Not Jake Plummer. It was Jake Delhomme. Sorry, Jake Delhomme. And
you were watching a Plummer last night, so you were thinking of it.
Yeah, watching Jake. Jake the Snake Plummer was a really fun quarterback. I rooted pretty hard for him, especially when he was a Cardinal. Yeah, fucking.
That was a pretty exciting one. That was a pretty exciting one.
Do we want to talk hard? Do we want to talk Hard Knocks? Quick little.
I do have a thing about Hard Knocks last night. I could talk about that.
Okay, we're going to end this Would You Rather nonsense. I'm sure it'll come back up. Here's the truth about it. I'd rather have all of those than a lot of things in life. The Bears. Ding! Love it. I love it. So I finally answered something right. Bears Hard Knocks episode 1 came out. My I love this show. I thought it was a little tame, a little kind of boring, but I really, really enjoyed the show, even though I thought it was a little kind of up and down in there. Watching Matt Eberflus get a haircut to me was like, really? We're doing this thing where we're like, all right, Joe, go ahead.
Tony, come on. If your wife told you to cut your hair a certain way, you're going to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like that's what I got out of it. Is like, hey, he got punked by his wife. That's why he has the beard and the new cut.
My wife won't even let me cut my hair. I want to cut my hair. She won't even let me.
So, like,
you need to shave that little patch right.
When you're in the public eye or trying to be in the public eye, then you will take advice from somebody else who you think has a good eye for what looks good, right? Like, so when I used to have to get headshots or update things for my agent when I would have to go out, I would take my wife's advice on what it is. But now at like 40 years old, and I'm not in the public eye, I don't give a shit. I do whatever I want. Hair, facial hair, doesn't matter. But there was a time when it was like, hey, what do you think of this style haircut as opposed to this? Facial hair, whatever it is, because you want those opinions. Matt Eberflus is being seen every day as this like doughy, dumb defensive guy. And then he grows the beard out and the wife's like, hey, let's do a little makeover and turn you into somebody that looks more confident and powerful. And if you're a player, you're going to react to the guy that's like, he exudes something where it's like confidence and appeal and all of those things. You have to have that. And if you can't manufacture it normally, then maybe your aesthetic should be part of it. And I think that's what happened.
Hey, so
I feel for Matt because I feel like they're putting him in a spot where this doesn't work out with Caleb here. Even in year one, he's the fall guy. Yeah, he's gonna be the scapegoat. He's gonna be the guy that they go, all right, fresh start with a new coach, some legacy guy or some really bright OC that comes from somewhere else.
All right, so I've liked Hard Knocks, and I think sometimes it gets bad and it gets boring, and they get away from some stuff. But I never thought Hard Knocks was scripted. I always thought it was like, hey, we're going to show you what really goes on and this. Last night, I was watching an episode, and I was like full on, I convinced myself, straight fucking scripted by the Bears and the NFL. At one point, Nick Saban was in there, right? Did you guys see the conversation between Nick Saban and Matt Eberflus? Straight setting it up so if Caleb Williams has a bad year, you're like that. In my opinion, that's what he was talking like. Nick Saban was telling them like, hey, there's so much expectations from the outside in here on your young quarterback. And then Matt Eberflus was like, yeah, it's all about developmental. The first year is developmental. Then they need to take the step forward. It's going to take 3 years. So in my mind, they were like setting it up for Caleb Williams if he has a bad year to be like, look, we talked about this. This is what we were expecting out of it. Instead of like looking at it like, no, you can't. Like that whole segment pissed me off because you can't sit there and say that you don't have expectations for Caleb Williams to come in here and start winning now. When you went out there and you got him DJ Moore, you got him Keenan Allen, and you got him these offense, and you made the offseason your priority to win now. Like you can't then turn around and go, we don't have expectations. We need him to grow, and we have 3 years for Caleb Williams to do something.
Well, like
that whole conversation with Nick Saban pissed me off.
I think what they're doing there, and I didn't watch the episode, so I haven't seen it yet, but I think what they're doing there is it's not necessarily for the public. It's more so for Caleb. Like, hey, this is a development year. But from the outside, you're completely right, Joe. They are looking what they did in Houston. They're looking at what they did in San Francisco. They realize we got a rookie quarterback on a rookie deal. He's supposed to be this phenom. We believe in him to be this phenom. We're not going to do what the Chargers did and wait until year 2.5 to say we're all in with our rookie contract, all in on our quarterback while he's on his rookie contract. We're just going to start it out from the jump. And like a move like Keenan Allen, for example, that helps out your rookie and developmental a ton, even though you're bringing in an elite $20 million wide receiver, helping out the run game as much as they could by adding some more depth with the running backs, trying to improve the O-line. Maybe it's a little bit too far by drafting a receiver with their second first-round pick. Maybe they could have went a different direction there. But I see what they're doing. They're trying to kind of like ease it off of Caleb. Like, this is a developmental year. So if things start to go wrong, we don't want you to lose focus. Like, you're still developing. We're trying to get you to improve. That's the number one goal. It's not to win right away. But they have the knowledge that in year 2, 3, and 4, they're trying to win right away. They are.
But we just
So,
admitted that Eberflus won't be there. If this is a train wreck season, he won't be there. So you don't have 2 to 3 years with Caleb Williams if you're the head coach.
So
Yeah,
it's they've assembled too much. I think Ryan Poles has done an amazing job, and they've assembled too much talent over the last 2 years, because I think we're going to look back at the free agency they had going into Justin Fields last year, when it's like they knew they had Carolina's pick in their pocket, and they knew it was going to be a pretty high pick based on that roster. Like, they can evaluate talent. And they looked around going like, hey, Frank Reich, how much magic can he work with? Bryce Young doesn't have a ton to work with at the receiver position. They didn't feel great about blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. So they knew they had that as like a backup plan to get back into the draft. They didn't necessarily know it was going to be the first overall pick, but like, they went out and got linebackers for that defense to get in there and start building the structure. Midway to the point, they go get, a top 10, 12 edge rusher that they go, get that, bring that into the building. It's like they've drafted safeties and defense. They knew they had. I don't think this season can be a train wreck. I do think how the season ends is an indictment on Eberflus. If they're a team that's like 9 and, let's say 8-4, and they finish the year off 9-8, that's how Eberflus is gone next year. But if the team is 5-8 and finishes off 9-8 and is nearly in a playoff spot, I think then Eberflus gets another chance based on how it is. Like, it's going to look at like Caleb, like how the season flows for him. Is there going to be games this year where Caleb might try and do too much and have 5-6 turnovers? There's absolutely going to be games like that. There's games like that for all rookies. Second year, like Christmas Day, we saw Brock Purdy, who's been amazing, have 5 turnovers. You're going to run into a good defense like the Ravens at some point, and you're going to get, you're going to have a rough day. Even the vets, even the greats have those. How does he bounce back? How does Eberflus get the team out of that? Like, do they slip into a 3-game rut? And I just think there's too much talent for that to happen. Like,
well, last year they finished strong, Tony, and I think that gave some confidence behind the Bears management to say, hey, we're in for Eberflus. We're not going to make any moves, even with kind of the chaos that was going on with the head coaching market, where like you had the first overall pick. You probably could have convinced maybe one of the big names to come through. There was a chance. They stuck with them. So, I mean, you might be onto something, especially after what we saw last year. I just think the Bears have realized, and it's probably been something that they've struggled with, just because people don't want to move to Chicago and play in the outdoor stadium. People don't want to move to Jacksonville. That's something that me and Tony talked about a bunch of times, of turning Jacksonville into a freaking destination for superstars. You can never put a value on just getting good players around good players. And I really think that's how teams like the 49ers stay relevant for so long and stay in the picture for so long, because they have all these good players on this roster. And then when you bring in the youngsters behind them, they kind of are able to be guided because they have the guys that know exactly what we're supposed to be trying to do right there in front of them at practice every day. That's why I also think that they bring in Keenan Allen and draft Rome Odunze, because Keenan Allen's going to make Rome Odunze a great player. And that's kind of the shift with Ryan Poles that I like to see with the Bears. That's
right now, before we haven't done our picks or anything like that, but just seeing what you've seen from the Bears in the preseason so far and what's going on. Are the Bears better than the Packers? Are the Bears better than the Lions? Those are the 2 teams that they got to compete with in their division. I'm not talking about the Minnesota Vikings, because I don't think the Vikings are as good as there, but they're not pushovers. But do you see the Bears being first or second, at least in their own division?
You know what's crazy is, talent-wise, Joe, I think that all these teams are pretty close. The difference is going to be in the pocket. And, Love and Goff are obviously the edge over the rookie or even Sam Darnold quarterbacks.
But and like Tony said, no matter how good you are in college, no matter how well prepared a quarterback is or a player going into the NFL, you're always going to run into some coordinator that is going to throw some shit at you that you're not ready for.
Yeah. Also, it's just like, even if you have the best rookie season of all time, like we've come to find out, even the best rookie quarterbacks ever can win 10 games max. That's why I was telling a Broncos fan on a show the other day. He was telling me how Bo Nix and the Broncos can win this division, how it's disrespectful to say that the Broncos almost have no shot at winning the division with a rookie quarterback, but at the same time, he has their record prediction being 10 games. It's like those two things don't go together. You can't have them like being in the picture for the division in the AFC West, especially, and a 10-win season, and just the wherewithal that Bo Nix will have to play like CJ Stroud to hit that 10-game mark.
So I think that like some rookie quarterbacks get into a situation where defensively, where you get I think Russell started a bunch, Roethlisberger. You get there where it's like you have these game-changing defenses. If the Bears defense can be that, then yes, the Bears could easily win this division. If the defense is a top 5, this offense will figure out a way enough to where they can win the division. But it's like, do you believe that they are in that game-changing level, like what the Ravens were last year, what the Chiefs were last year? These defenses that are winning close games for you, like, can the Bears get to be in that top 3 conversation of defense? Then yeah, the Bears will win the division. I personally think the Lions have made enough improvements on defense to combat anything like that. I think they'll still be there. I'm going to have every one of these teams finishing at 9 or 8 and better. I think this is a top level division in the NFL that the Bears are in. I don't think 9 and 8 should be considered a bad season for the Bears. I think that's a 2-win improvement with a rookie.
We could send all 4 teams, is what you're saying. There's potential.
In the NFL now, Tony, we've gotten to that point as fans that we think 9 and 8 is horrible. Like, and you know how hard it is to win 9 games in the NFL, and all of us are like, well, I'm just saying, like, it don't even matter. Like, if your team goes 9 and 8 and they show promise, and that's all you got. Like, you got to look at, like Tony said, you got to look at how your team is winning and losing, and not the overall record sometimes, and be like, hey, we started 1 and 7 and we finished 9 and 8 or whatever it is. Like, there's a lot of promise. Like, I think we're so focused on winning so much that we don't allow players and teams to develop anymore, and we're constantly changing over. But Tony, that is another thing that as you were talking, it reminded me of. That's another thing that pissed me off about the Nick Saban segment is he brought up Peyton Manning's rookie year, and he was like, Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions his rookie year. So just like, people need to realize, like, I don't know. It is something that we as NFL fans, and speaking about expectations, is we put too much expectations on our team and players every year that sometimes we just got to look at the bigger picture and be like, actually, it was a damn good season.
It's just that everyone goes back to the same examples, and it's like, it's not that big of a deal, but there's one Peyton Manning in the history of the human race, guys. Why are we even using him as a example? Like, you could just left it as rookies struggle their rookie year. You didn't need to compare anyone or bring up Peyton Manning's name.
Because I think that, like, a lot of times people like to think that their guy is the outlier too.
Yeah,
right? Like,
that their guy is the one of history.
Yeah, you start having those things where you go, oh, well, this happened, X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, my guy could be the next outlier. He could be the next person that suffers major struggles. But you go back and look at that Colts team, they were not just like, even on like the draft pick level, the built-in resumes that are put on here. Like, Peyton Manning didn't come into a situation where he had DJ Moore, like 5-time 1,000-yard receiver, Keenan Allen, 8-time 1,000-yard receiver. Like, Peyton Manning didn't get dropped into that situation. So I think for many reasons, it's kind of a bad parallel. But for the show's purposes, I don't think they're getting down and breaking the minutia. But like, if you look at, we're talking about this, how you feel about certain things. The Colts won 9 games last year. The Bengals won 9 games last year. We feel very optimistic about how those seasons were based on the quarterback play that they had, right? Like, if the Bengals won 9 games last year and Joe Burrow was healthy for the whole season, we would have looked at that and been like, oh shit, the Bengals shot the bed. But because of what they did with Jake Browning, we look at that as like, oh my goodness, like, the Bengals are a really well thing. I think that, like, if I'm a general manager, the thing I'm looking for is, how's the unity? Is everybody headed into that final stretch, that 3-4 game stretch of the season? And are they still together? Like, are they still out there going, shit, we got something. We're building towards something. We're together still. And if the Bears aren't like that, I think Eberflus is gone. If the vibe around it is like, oh shit, we're this close. And it's not a player thing, it's an experience thing. And next year we're going to be a 13-4 team. Like if that's the energy, Eberflus is still there because I think he is a good defensive coach. I thought he was a great hire for the Bears. And I think that if given time, this Bears team is going to be right there with the Lions.
So
you said unity. Unity.
Oh boy. So to tie us in a bow on this topic, 9 wins for the Bears this year is a successful season.
Yes, I think so. I think
so,
8 and 9. Yeah,
I'm with it. We all agree on something. That's crazy.
All right, let's end this show here. We'll go quickly. We don't need to dive deep into this. We'll all go through and give a couple of players. We are excited for preseason football. We got games tonight, Saturday and Sunday. Rookies that we want to see, maybe some, groups, defensive line or secondaries or whatever, quarterbacks, wide receivers. What is something you're excited to watch you're hoping to get out of the weekend, Joe?
The main game I'm going to watch is the Raider game, and there's a couple people in that game I want to watch, and that one of them is JJ McCarthy because of everything that they've been talking about him in camp. Like, hey, I don't know if you guys knew this, JJ McCarthy threw 30 touchdowns in training camp. 30 touchdowns. Like, I think they have made a plaque for him and they hung a banner or something like. So I'd like to see him against extra teams. The Raiders, as my team, the Raiders aren't having joint practices this year, so this is the first time we actually get to see the defense and some of the Raiders have some young defensive backs that have been making great plays in training camp, but now you actually get to see them against another team. I like to see how the Raiders secondary is, and going against the greatest training camp quarterback ever in JJ McCarthy, throw 30 touchdowns. It's going to be a good test for them. So I don't know, but it's hard because preseason's hard to watch, Tony, because you fall in love with some of these young players that make big plays, and we go, oh dang, that guy could be a player. And like every once in a while, we have a Victor Cruz that shows up, and hey, he does make those big plays and he makes the team. But it's like we can't get caught up too much on preseason, especially third and fourth quarter of these games.
Yeah, but I think, again, like just watching stuff, building confidence in certain young players. That's what we talked about Kashawn Boutte for the Patriots. Like, can we find moments that we're hoping to see where some positivity can be built in the right direction? Mike, go ahead. Couple things, whatever you're looking for.
For my bolts, biggest thing for us, Tony, that I'm watching, the receivers, obviously, but I think I've gotten what I need to get out of training camp. It's the running backs. I don't think the Chargers starting running backs are going to get too many carries in preseason, so it's going to be Vidal, it's going to be Patterson, it's going to be Dotson, it's going to be Spiller. The Chargers have a spot for a running back or two on the roster that are up for grabs, and I don't know who it's going to be. I'm also looking at it because I have the wherewithal that the Chargers running backs are known to be a bit banged up during the season. So I'm thinking like running backs that are going in the preseason, the Chargers are probably going to need to use at some point this year. Let's see who's going to stand out and stand out for the Chargers. And then another battle that I want to see, and I'm surprised Joe didn't bring it up, is the QB battle with the Raiders. Because I feel like AOC has the lead on this, according to reports around the internet, around online. But I could also see how in a practice environment where everything's controlled, that AOC could look better than Gardner Minshew. But then in the game, when things start to break down, that experience is going to take over. Every time I've watched Gardner Minshew play football in my career, he's had some wild throws. He's had some wild moments. But I've just seen like a solid, consistent feeder of the football. If he has good weapons around him, the offense runs efficiently to what the OC wants. So I personally would start Gardner Minshew. I'm not there at practice. I can't make that decision for the Raiders. So I'll be watching that one. Also because all this talk about Herbert's foot and Herbert is going to be ready for week 1. Who the hell are the Chargers playing week 1? I want to see that as well. There's 2 other quarterbacks this preseason that I'm locked in on. I believe one is playing tonight, or maybe both are playing tonight. We'll definitely be posting some live reactions. Is one, Michael Penix in Atlanta. How much is he going to play, for one? And for 2, if this guy looks good, like really good, the Falcons are going to look stupider and stupider. It's kind of in a lose-lose scenario here. And then in Pittsburgh, Justin Fields can go out there and ball out. This team is working on potentially getting Brendan Ayuk also. Like, we are all rooting for Justin Fields to have some kind of renaissance there in Pittsburgh, and it would start in this preseason with him just for one, I think he solidified himself as their backup quarterback for the season, but show Mike Tomlin that if the game plan with Russell Wilson doesn't work out, that play action, classic Russell Wilson stuff isn't working, and Russell Wilson can't do anything else like we saw in Denver, put me in, coach. Give me the ball. Let me run.
So I do think Justin Fields was on my list. I brought like 8 just in case there were repeats. But I do think Justin Fields can make a splashy play in the preseason and seize control of the locker room, the job, the emotion, and everything by just having those big moments. I want to give Joe a second to respond because I saw kind of a look on his face when you were talking about the Raiders QBs. Your thoughts on this battle, which way are you leaning as a fan? What are you hoping?
Well, I just saw a report that said the same thing that Mike said, that one of the Raiders guys was trying to throw it out there that Gardner Minshew has never been a practice guy. He's never been good in practice. He's always better in the game, just like Mike said. Here's my thing. I think I'm with Mike too. I think Aiden O'Connell wins the job. If Gardner Minshew doesn't run away with it, like shows that oh my God, he's way better than Aiden O'Connell. You go with the younger guy because he's the rookie. You don't. Yeah. I think if you go, hey, Gardner Minshew's our starter, you're gonna knock a little bit of confidence out of AOC. Where you start him, Gardner Minshew has been in this role with many rookies before. Where if it's better to make that transition later on in the season if you had to. But if you want to go with the safer bet and the guy who's not going to turn the ball over or take the most risk, you go with Aiden O'Connell. But if you want somebody that's going to be able to manipulate the pocket but you have to take that risk if he might throw that interception and a bad throw, it's going to be Gardner Minshew. But I think the Raiders would go the Aiden O'Connell route first before Gardner Minshew if the battle's like right here.
So I this is the way I look at it. The Raiders have been made a horrible mistake this year. You do not have Devontae Adams on your team and then not go be more aggressive than Gardner Minshew at quarterback. So you have to start Aiden O'Connell if you're me. You need to find out, he's the one player on your team that if he hits, if he captures some sort of Brock Purdy ability, because the Raiders have offensive pieces. This could be a good offense with the right coaching and structure and everything. And if Aiden O'Connell can be the future on a rookie deal, that's what they need to discover. He should be the starter from week 1, and he should get a pretty long leash. And then, like you said, you flip to Gardner Minshew.
And they have weapons.
That's what I'm saying.
They have weapons.
They have a good offense. If he can capture something.
The heat is coming. The heat is coming. The NFL defensive coordinators are going to be blitzing the shit out of this guy, so we'll see if he can handle it.
Why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? If you were a defensive coordinator and you saw these two quarterbacks, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and you saw 7 sacks on the fucking box score.
You know what I'm talking about?
AOC, I've already noticed holds the ball for way too long, and he's only played very limited snaps.
But he does, and it was his rookie year. I just think you have to find out what you have with this guy at the beginning of the year. He's going to get to go into a place that's going to be not a terrible place for a Raiders start in SoFi in week 1. There's going to be a lot of Raiders fans there, unfortunately. I'm painting myself like a freaking powder blue Smurf to try and combat all the black in the stadium for week 1, but it's never enough. I'm going to run through mine real quick here. Number 1, Will Levis and the Titans offense. They're playing a couple of series this weekend. I'm very intrigued to see how that functions and moves and works. The DeAndre Hopkins loss is definitely hurt there. Marvin Harrison Jr. going to play this weekend. That'll be fun. Even if he's not getting the ball, just see his ability to get open, go back and kind of, see if I have access to the All-22 to kind of watch with a little more detail there. I think that'll be interesting. We already covered Fields. Latu. The Samson Ebelcom injury for the Colts really opened up an opportunity, I think, for this kid to go out and win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think double-digit sacks for him. We already talked about McCarthy. I'll skip over Bo Nix, and I will go to my final 2, which is Trey Benson, who's a player that I really loved in the draft. I think he might get some run this weekend. And then the Rams defensive line. Are they going to are we going to get to see Fisk and Jared Verse out here rushing against some backup offensive linemen in a game? And if so, I think that shit'll be fun. I'll be tuned in to watch if those guys are getting snaps.
Tony, I like the Rams defensive line, what you just said. And This is the bad thing about joint practices. Sometimes is they get enough work in those where we don't see them in the preseason game as often. You know what I mean? Like, oh, they did great during the two. But first, I don't know if you saw it, Tony. There's a video coming out of training camp because the Rams and the Cowboys did joint practices, and Verse lit up a Dallas Cowboys lineman.
Yeah, Mike sent that. I was like, holy shit.
The Cowboys O-line doesn't look good either. From the practice I saw, the Cowboys O-line, like most of Dak's completions were sacks already before he even let the ball go. They just said continue to play. They continue to play. But yeah, Jared Verse didn't just bully him. He bullied him and then had mercy. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to go so hard on you.
Yeah. But that's the thing that is the part that's tough with practice is you're gauging. You're being told like you do this a lot. So if you're sparring, like when I was doing Muay Thai stuff, they would be like, all right, guys, here we go. We're going about 40, 50% on this. And then all of a sudden the guy who you're sparring with comes out and he's like throwing fucking head kicks right away. And you're like, what the hell? Dude, he said 50%, like if you want to fight, we can fight. But he said 50%. In that drill, if they're like, hey, we're both going 50%, Curse might be like, well, my 50% is at this level. And it's like, really, dude? We've seen your tape. That's more like 90%. Like it's hard to gauge what that is. And especially the adrenaline takes over. You're trying to make a good impression. That's why I think the practice videos are a bit overblown. And then it just looks shitty. It's like your family and friends have to see you going viral. And you're like, especially when big guys fall over, there's no way for a big man to look graceful when he falls. They fall and it's like
big guy starts falling, they ain't stopping it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like gravity takes over and it's bad. It's a bad look.
That's why you guys don't own a franchise. I was at the scrimmage. The Cowboys ran all over the Rams.
All right, big dog. There you go.
Where the hell this guy come from?
Big dog. You're lying.
Hey,
I do own a franchise.
Joe, you don't got shirt on.
You know how many Super Bowls I've won?
Joe, big dog. Joe, big dog. We appreciate your opinions here at MJT.
No, we don't. Fuck him.
No, big dog. You can come back anytime, man. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. We admit that this is why we don't run franchises, but we still like to have fun talking about football. So please subscribe to the channel. Forget everything Joe just said. Hopefully my microphone levels are a little higher than his anyways, because he doesn't even have a microphone in his shot. He doesn't even care that much. So
it was terrible. It was terrible.
You guys saved us here, and we got a new subscriber, Big Dog. Shout out to you.
No, fuck Big Dog. Everything he rocks with. He's probably a Cowboy fan anyways. We don't need that shit over here. We don't need
completely unbiased analysis of the Cowboys-Rams scrimmage here from Big Dog.
Yeah.
Hey, anyways, let's go back on topic. One last thing I want to talk about last night, Tony. Hendon Hooker. I don't know if you saw that run.
Oh, yeah.
Put that shoulder down in his preseason, in his first game back, and he put his shoulder down. Like I was like, ooh, all right. Like earned a lot of respect yesterday.
I would feel very good if I'm the Lions about having that as a project. I know they just gave Jared Goff the big deal, but I mean, I'm sure like in all these contracts, there's a reasonable out at a certain point where maybe with Hendon Hooker, it's like, hey, year 4, we're going to give this guy a shot because he's impressive. Although I just think they love Jared Goff there and he's the long-term starter, but maybe you can trade Hendon Hooker. Who knows? I don't know. It's all speculation and fun. That's what we have here. I hope everybody has a great weekend.
I told you was a Cowboy fan.
All of their congratulations, Big Dog. It's your year. It's the Cowboys' year, Super Bowl this year. I hope you get to see your favorite players on your favorite teams doing great things. Like Mike said, very excited to watch.
He just roasted us.
The Chargers and let's have some fun. I don't know. I'm not even reading the comments out there. Get out there on the internet, put some positivity in the chat. Let people know who you're cheering for, what you're doing. Do it in a positive aspect. Mike, Joe, you guys got anything to say before I end this show?
I just want a poll to be taken in the comments or something. Who do you think's bigger, Big Dog or Joe?
I absolutely am betting on Joe, and 99% of sight unseen. Unless a guy comes in here and his name is like Colossus 550, I probably might just randomly gamble on that. But Big Dog, I don't know. Joe's a giant.
Big Dog is like 60 years old, and I just fucking like told him to fuck off. Like,
Oh yeah, he's a 50-year Cowboy fan. Maybe he's 53 years old though. Then it's fair because you're like 52, so it's close enough.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Uh,
and he just said what I said about Cowboy fans at the beginning of the show. Cowboy fans are the only franchise that is happy with making the playoffs and exiting first round. That's what he said. As long as they make the top of the division, that's all that counts.
They're not going to anyways. But
So it's a circle, Tony.
Get us
It's
outta
a
here, Tony.
circle. It's
Get
a
us outta here.
circle.
look at Kyle coming with one of the favorite cliches of all time.
yeah.
And that is this is definitely why they have weight classes, because nobody ever wanted to see Floyd Mayweather fight Mike Tyson, because it
Ask
is
those stripes, Kyle. Tell
tell
them to ask those stripes, ask those stars about underdogs. All right.
Okay, let's get out of here. Have a great weekend, everybody. Cheers. Football's back, even if it's preseason. Football's back? Question mark.
Back, baby. Bolt up.